Their faces are becoming as familiar as their silver factory livery, and their racing machines are reserving a place for themselves among the greatest sports cars in history. Why? Because they are winning. Winning at the season opener in Texas. Winning after 12 hours of punishment at Sebring. And winning as the class of the field at Sears Point. Today, at the fourth round of the American Le Mans Series Championship, Audi was in fact planning on extending a 14-race winning streak. However, the apple cart has been upset. For the first time in 15 months, it is not an Audi on pole. That goes to the PANOZ of David Brabham and Jan Magnussen. Now, while the battle up front is clearly heating up, there is one heating up right behind.
In the race for the GTS category win, the battle rages between two American muscle cars. The factory Corvette team prides itself on creating a race-winning car from their production-based vehicle. The Saleen S7 is a clean-sheet performance design built for the racetrack and the road. Corvette is currently up 2-1 in the win column, but Team Saleen thinks it's their turn to take the checkered flag. Well, qualifying honors here yesterday went to the Corvette team. Ron Fellows once again working his magic in that number 3 car, but he narrowly pipped Franz Conrad in the Saleen, and the real factor was their designated fast man Terry Borchella was competing in Trois Rivières yesterday, but he is back. It's going to be one great battle out on the track today.
If a race in GTS is a battle, back here in GT we have a full-blown war. The BMW Battalion versus the Porsche Panzers. Controversial V8 power against the time-tested, bulletproof 911s. The push and shove started at Texas with a factory BMW team throwing around some muscle. At Sebring, more BMW bullying, but not without paybacks. And the Warriors aren't letting up. The Porsche squad captured the first 2 season wins despite the punishment, and they started an offensive campaign at Sears Point. The 4-strong field of BMWs fired shots at their own camp, but managed to stay alive for their first season victory. And here at Portland, the BMWs qualified first, second, third, and fourth. But the Porsches, the Alec Job cars, are not far behind, and they may have a better race setup. The two German giants are going to battle it out again.
Welcome to a sun-drenched and ever-scenic Portland International Raceway for the fourth round of the American Le Mans Series. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Creamer, and welcome to the Rose City and the Grand Prix of Portland. I'm Greg Creamer. I'm joined by Jeremy Dale. Jeremy, you won here in 1994, great race then. We're looking forward to a great one today. After qualifying, you looked at the timesheet, and your first response was, this is a fascinating grid.
Well, you're absolutely right, Greg. It is a fascinating grid for a couple of reasons. Two big things. One is the PANOZ on the pole, David Brabham. Keep in mind, this is a car that had been put away. They were done with this car. They were onto the LMP 007. Well, they've mothballed that car. They've brought the old car out, and they're on the pole here at Portland. Number 2, the GT cars and the GTS cars. The GT car is only 1 second behind in qualifying. That's from the leading GT car to the leading GTS car. With their ability to go longer on fuel and be easier on tires, I would not be surprised if one of these GT cars beats the winning GTS car here today.
A little more upsetting, possibly, of that proverbial apple cart. Now, you know, the PANOZ was actually fastest in one of the practice sessions, and that speed was borne out in qualifying. Jeremy, Klaus Graf went out early and established a pattern, put up a lap good for pole, then went off.
He slid off the road here on the infield, and this was all pretty harmless. Got the car back going again, got going very, very quickly. Then, end of the back straightaway through the S's. He spins the car here, and this one would come back to haunt him. We'll talk a little bit more about that later.
David Brabham, the erstwhile team leader, then came out in the number 50 PANOZ, warmed it up, put in a flyer, got a little cooperation going by one of the Audis, and put in a lap good enough for pole.
And then the Audis come out, and they come out in full force. This is Emmanuel Pirro coming out of the festival. Look at that, gets it all crossed up, lays the rubber down, manages to keep it on the racetrack, but the Audis only second and third on the grid.
Now, Calvin Fish and Andrew Marriott joining us in pit lane, and Calvin is standing by with the gentleman who worked the miracle.
Well, this space has been reserved for the Audis for the past 15 months, but yesterday David Brabham took that away. He readies himself for the green flag right now. But David, how do you take a car that's been in mothballs for about 6 months, go out, compete against the car that's been developed over 2 years and beat them?
Well, I think it's like vintage wine, really. You put it in the shed for 6 months, you dust it down, and it just gets better. But yeah, I mean, we're obviously really wrapped that, you know, we're here sitting on pole position, but we know we've got a long race together, and, you know, the team have done a really good job to get this far with this car, and Michelin have given us some fantastic tyres again. I really feel confident for the race.
Well, David and Jan Magnussen are attempted to win a race for the very first time in about a year. At the ring last year in the wet, they did defeat the Yost Audis. They'll start second and third. Kristensen will be starting alongside Frank Biela. Then the champion Audi. Actually, Kraft should have been starting fourth, but he had to change tyres after qualifying, flat spotted those. And next to the champion Audi, we have the 260-75 categories, led by Didier de Radiguez in the Barber entry. Then we come all the way back to the GTS pole winner, and that is Ron Fellows. Going to try and sneak a word in here with him. Tire management was such an issue last week. Ron, at Sears Point, there was tire management that won you the race. The Salinas starting on the Dunlops. Who's going to have the decisive edge this afternoon?
Well, we hope it's us with our Goodyears. This is a fairly slick place, not quite as slippery as Sears Point, but you know, it's going to come down to, like you say, the tire management and fuel mileage, I think.
Okay, well, let's get it back to two guys who are not shy on words. Andrew Marriott and Boris said with the GT category. Sorry, Andrew.
Yeah, well, another wordsmith, of course, his hand stuck. He will start the car, but Boris put it on the pole. And it's personal with Boris. He hates Porsches, and he really wants to beat them.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we've been battling with Porsches for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's kind of like the Hatfield and the McCoys. And BMW built a brand new car. It's the ultimate driving machine, and I think we can finally put Porsche in their place in the back.
But what about the Corvettes? With the fuel and so on, you might even be able to get in amongst the Corvettes.
Maybe if we can, that's great. But, you know, we're just worried about our class, and our class is 3 really good BMWs and some good Porsches, and, you know, we're looking for the championship. So I watched my brother for the first hour and a half, Hans, do a great job, and then I'm chomping at the bit to get in that M3.
Thanks, Boris. Back to you guys in the booth.
Boy, he does love driving his race cars, and the engines have come to life here at Portland. When we come back, we'll take a look at this Portland International Raceway facility, and we'll bring you the rest of the starting lineup. Don't go away.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by BMW. Find yours at bmwusa.com.
Welcome back to Portland, everybody, and the field is underway on the pace and parade laps. And Jeremy, as promised, let's take a look at PIR.
Well, Portland always produces some great racing over the start-finish line by the pit out. The festival curves, nothing but trouble down the festival curve. That's all I can say. Now, from turn 1 out to turn 5, very, very connected section of racetrack here. Very hard on tires, long duration corners. Really no significant areas for passing in there, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. Out of 5, very important to get a shot out onto that long straightaway, which is not straight at all. Long, long right-hand corner. And then the very quick section at the end of the straightaway, turns 7 and 8. Very fast fifth gear S's with a setup for 9. And some not well-planned passing moves have been done into turn 9 over the years. But really, it's exit speed that's most important out of turn 9 for that long run down the front straightaway.
1.9 miles, and we're going for 2 hours, 45 minutes. Let's take a look at the starting lineup. We've made a big deal about it because it is one. David Brabham on the pole, and just an awesome job. His 3rd pole, 5th for PANOZ since the series began, joined by Tom Kristensen, who gave it everything he could in qualifying, just not quite enough. We go back to row 2, and there it is, Emmanuel Pirro, joined by Frank Biela, starting 3rd. Qualified 4th was Graf and Lagoris, with Graf, of course, having that spin, and he will start at the back after having changed tires. Everybody shifts up, including Johnny Herbert and Andy Wallace in the privateer, in quotation marks, Audi. Then it is the fastest of the LMP 675 machines, the Reynard Judd from Barber Racing of de Radiguez. We move back to the next qualified row, and that is the other LMP 675 car, Hawkins and Knight, the Lola B2K Judd. Then the fastest of the GTS machines, Ron Fellows. He'll be joined by Johnny O'Connell in the Chevy Corvette. Then it is Conrad and Borchler. Remember, Conrad doing the qualifying while Borchler was absent, and the Celine did a nice job with 2nd. He'll be joined on that row by the 3rd fastest of the GTS machines, Pilgrim and Collins in the Team Chevy Corvette. Then the fastest of the GT machines, Hans Stuck and Boris said. Stuckey will start it, but Boris did the qualifying. Then it's Leto and Mueller. Now, arguably these cars, these as well, coming up this next group of Johnson and Oberlin and Eklund and Mueller are identical, but they're campaigned by 2 different teams. Then it is Lewis and Altenberg in one of the American Viper Racing Dodges. We go back a little bit further. There's Menzel and Popes in the Porsche. Then Mullen Peterson and new driver Timo Bernhard in the Porsche. And then at the back, it is one of the Dodge Vipers, and then the number 69 machine will be back, as well as the number 15 of Wars and Niehaus. Now, interestingly, those two last cars missed the call to grid. They'll have to start from the pit lane. So if there's anything good about that, it comes for Klaus Graf, who has two other cars he doesn't have to worry about passing. Coming around, Jeremy, the pace car is in.
I don't think Klaus was going to have a huge problem with those two.
You never know.
Those PANOZ cars really do get up and go. Now, these top 4 cars, look at that champion car. The champion car out of the 5 LMP 500 cars was 5th quickest.
And obviously, Brabham wants to bring them up as slow as possible and use the torque, the launch of that V8. We're green. Oh, and right, look at Klaus Graf going to the wall, trying to get by. Brabham coming in. And here comes Biela. And around the outside, Kristensen into the lead early, and that is exactly what Brabham did not want to see happen.
And look at this drag race here from the champion car and the factory car. And you saw Lagorce coming up, and look at Lagorce already up to about 7th or 8th position. So it won't be long, excuse me, Klaus Graf, won't be long before that second PANOZ is in the mix. But boy, poor David Brabham did not get a good jump there. And they were 4 wide. There is Lagorce. So it is Lagorce on board. They were 4 wide into the festival curves.
But again, I don't think we can stress it enough. Brabham really needed to lead, I think, into that festival to be able to really take a run at things here, and he could not get it done. There goes Lagorce around the outside of one of the LMP 675 machines. Actually, that may be Graf. They do have the right to change their nominated starting drivers right up to the last moment, so maybe Graf now behind the wheel, but it is indeed Kristensen out front leading, and he's already opened it up a little bit over Brabham. It is Klaus Graf, we get confirmation now, who is in the number 51 PANOZ.
There you see the champion car. These guys have struggled all weekend with this car. Johnny Herbert on board right now. He did qualify the car, but he was a second behind the 2 factory cars. And boy, if you go and watch this car on the racetrack, it almost looks like a different car. It doesn't get over the bumps as well. It doesn't accelerate. It doesn't put power down as well. And they were a second off the pace of those 2 factory cars.
Let's go back and take a look at what's unfolding in GT. This is the number 23 McKenna Porsche that currently sits in the 12th spot, and that is the number 10 of the BMW, the Milner team. Nicholas Johnson, the starting driver in that car. And this is what we expect to see, because there, as Andrew Marriott mentioned early on, the Porsches are very confident about a race setup here, and the race strategy might actually bring them a little closer to these 4 BMWs than they showed pure speed-wise in qualifying.
Don't forget, there are 4 BMWs, 2 run by PTG, which is the North American team, 2 run by the Schnitzer team out of Germany. Schnitzer team runs on Michelin tires, the PTG team runs on Yokohama tires. So those cars, as similar as they are not exactly the same. Look at this train of GT cars as they come onto the front straightaway.
On board the BMW with Nicholas Johnson, looking back at the number 23 machine. There is that battle, and I'll tell you, after what we saw at Sears Point, there's a lot of people tend to believe that that Yokohama tire might be the tire that might have the measure of Michelin here.
Well, Frederick Eklund really believed that the combination of the Yokohama and the BMW was very, very good at Sears Point. He's not as convinced that it's as good here, but remember, Yokohama's been working with the PTG team for a number of years now, and so the relationship is a very comfortable, very cozy one. And those tires have been developed for those PTG cars. But you saw 5 cars in line there. It was BMW, Porsche, BMW, Porsche, BMW, all in line.
And considering the BMW's qualified 4 in a row here, the Porsche's obviously got a great jump on the start. On board still, that's Sasha Maassen, the driver of this car. He has won here at Portland in this category in the past with Dick Barber, so he knows his way around this track in a Porsche, and he is putting a lot of pressure on right now Nicholas Johnson and the Milner Prototype Technology Group. BMW there, though, is your leader, Tom Kristensen, and already has opened up a margin in excess of 2 seconds here at Portland International Raceway. Welcome back to Portland, the American Le Mans Series in its 4th round, the Grand Prix of Portland. Up front, it continues to be Tom Kristensen leading. There, just turning in, was David Brabham, chased by Frank Biela. There is Johnny Herbert in the multicolored champion Audi, and right behind him is Klaus Graf. And Graf, obviously he was going to make his way up through the pack pretty quickly, but he has caught this group in short order and is now starting to heap some pressure on Mr. Herbert here. Working around one of the lapped American Viper Racing machine cars.
Well, what's interesting about this is that these cars that are sitting 2nd through 5th right now have all been running very similar lap times, all within about a 1/10 or 2 of each other. Tom Kristensen, who is leading right now by about 4 seconds, his quickest lap so far, a full 1 second quicker than any of these cars. So Kristensen has just totally checked out on this group.
Just a brilliant lead by him. Now we're going to go back, take a look at what's unfolding in GTS. Ron Fellows, of course, in the Corvette, did the job in qualifying, and he currently is out front. Franz Conrad, though, right there, as he was in qualifying. I mean, he was very, very close to Fellows' time in that teal and white Conrad driven Celine, so having a good run. Calvin, how's things looking early in the going here for the vets?
Well, the vets are running a different strategy with the number 3 and the number 4 machine. They're running different weights on the car. You can run 1150 kilos or 1200. If you run the lighter weight, you have a smaller air restrict that costs you a few horsepower, but time management is the key around this place. And the number 3 car is that new transaxle, which is a little bit lighter, allows them to achieve that lighter weight limit. So it should be a fact here, because Portland is so critical on the tires. It really seems to keep its track temperature in relationship to the ambience. You see extremely high track temp, extremely high tire temp, but these guys are trying to run for over an hour on the same set.
Trying to work the strategy early, obviously, playing the game a little differently, and that transaxle can be a huge, huge benefactor when you are looking at tire wear and balance on the car, especially later on a used set of tires when fuel is burning up. Running a transaxle setup can help immeasurably, can it?
Well, it absolutely can, because it puts more weight over the rear tires, which is one of the things that the Corvettes need. They need to distribute that weight just a little bit better. And as Calvin said, it's also a 6-speed as opposed to a 5-speed. Now, the two cars are actually geared pretty much the same. And what they've done with that first gear in this car is they've used it more as a gear to get out of the pit lane cleanly. So there is the battle for GT now, and you can see these guys not running that far behind the leading battle in GTS. There is Nicholas Johnson and Sasha Maassen.
Now you notice Hans Stuck, who was in the car that qualified fastest in this division, has dropped back a little bit. Reports are no problem with the car. He's just dropped back a little bit, conserving perhaps just a tad. Sasha Maassen, though, feeling the mood a little bit here, and has got the bit firmly clenched and is after Johnson big time. Now there are reports as well of some damage to the front end of the number 30 White Lightning Peterson Racing MPIE and Westward Ho Casino Porsche, and you can see it's nowhere there in the frame. It's dropped well back. We'll try and follow up on that one for you. But now joining this group up front comes one of the Schnitzer BMWs. That's the blue and white machine right there.
And our leader also coming into this group of GT cars to lap them. So right now we're working lap number 8, and there's the lead Audi. And you want to be careful there, because it's very hard. Remember, these guys in GT are running a very, very hard race amongst themselves. So if you're Tom Kristensen, you don't want to take anything for granted. You don't want to ever assume that these guys see you. It's just not the safe thing to do. So he was actually very, very careful getting through the traffic there, and he ought to be able to at least clear this one BMW down the back straightaway before he gets to the S's.
Sort of the ultimate oxymoron, isn't it? Defensive driving at 120 plus miles an hour.
Well, it's just the way it has to be. I mean, you've got to be aggressive, and you've got to put the car in there. But for instance, he could go under that Porsche there into turn 9, and he does, but he didn't go until he knew the Porsche was going to leave room. Otherwise, you just take a lot of chances.
Now he blows by Nicholas Johnson, and you can see the rate that those cars have in terms of speed differential. But what that may have done as well is bottle things up just a little bit and allowed Johnson to get a break. But Maassen now under attack from J.J. Leto in that blue and white number 42 BMW.
And I'll tell you what, that gap was over 4 seconds. I just saw a piece of bodywork or something come off one of those cars. It might have been one of the dive planes off one of the front of the LMP cars. Oh, and Klaus Graf locks up. But I was going to say the lead was up over 4 seconds. Right now, 1.2 seconds. So Kristensen did give up a lot of time. Look at these guys working their way through this traffic. And look at Klaus Graf now trying to go around the second factory Audi. As a matter of fact, Johnny Herbert has gotten around the factory car.
Boy, that factory car got bottled up because the GT front runners were trying to get around a couple of the slower GT cars, and they were side by each, if you will, and Herbert picked the right side, really, and look at Graf. He's going to try it on the outside. Biela saw it, moved way over on him, but Graf definitely got a run. That was a very wide Audi for a moment.
Klaus Graf, as I understand it, has brought a lot of, maybe verve is the word, a lot
vigor.
Of vigor to this team. I think the combination of putting the LMP 007 back in the garage and bringing these cars out, and some of the driver lineup here, I think it's really done a lot for this team, and certainly it's shown. You can see the bodywork there leaving the festival chicane, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of these cars is missing a dive plane, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if it's that number 2 red Audi.
Now this is that moment we were talking about, Jeremy. I mean, Graf almost on the grass.
And I'll tell you, it's pretty dodgy because these cars, especially the LMP 900 cars, do not slow down a whole lot for those S's.
Oh, and we have a pass for the point. That is David Brabham apparently has gone by Kristensen, and the way that we've seen traffic affect things, you have to assume that is exactly what happened. But boy, that is exactly what Brabham wanted to happen, and arguably that V8 big grunt that these LMP1s have versus the 07 version with that little high screaming engine, that V8 grunt's going to pay big dividends in traffic.
Well, there's no question that with the Audis, which are turbocharged, 2 turbochargers on those Audis, then if you lose your momentum, if you lose your rhythm with that car, and you have to lift off the throttle, you can see the guys there avoiding that bodywork that is out on the racetrack. If you have to kind of interrupt your momentum, it's tougher to get that car up on the boil again with those turbochargers, whereas with the normally aspirated V8 in the PANOZ, you go to the throttle and it's ready to go, and that could be a real advantage in traffic.
It was one of the LMP 675 machines just briefly, as you pointed out, held up Kristensen, and that was all it took. Brabham is through. Now, though, they're coming up on some cars with some pretty stellar V8 grunt of their own. There's the Corvette, and there's the Celine, and he is just now going by the GTS leader.
Watch out.
So we got a Viper in there as well.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, Brabham did a phenomenal job there, because what he's done, he's put those cars between himself and the Audi. So, and of course, you can see the Viper there got caught in the mix. Remember, Ron Fellows was trying to get by that car and probably put that car between himself and Conrad in the Celine.
And Conrad had a very rough ride, too, coming up into that final corner as he went wide, was skipping across the grass as well, so he's lost touch now with Fellows. Now we're going to go back, Jeremy, and take a look at the pass for the lead from Kristensen's camera. This will tell the tale.
Now this is in the infield. That's the long left-hander. He gets caught behind this 675 car, goes to the inside. The gap isn't there, and there is around the outside Brabham. And really, it wasn't that hard for David Brabham because Kristensen just got bottled up, and old Tom Kristensen says, hey, cut me a break.
So David Brabham, obviously, let's see now if he can expand this out pretty quickly, and it looks like he's doing just that. The last lap alone, he has gone up by about 1.5 seconds. And we're going to see what it comes up to there. There you can see the gap back to Kristensen. And right now, David Brabham gets a little help and gets back where he wanted to be in front, where he can control the action here, particularly as they continue to work what is proving to be some pretty intense traffic here in Portland. Welcome back to Portland International Raceway for the Grand Prix of Portland, where we have been under a full course caution. Sort of came out suddenly, and the reason was actually some contact and a fairly serious debris field that was scattered around and involved one of the front runners in the GT class. We're going to show you what happened here. First, the onboard shot. Now watch what happens up front, Jeremy, to the BMW.
Well, that's the PANOZ goes around the outside. That kind of pinches the BMW down. The Porsche, you can see, is already up on the curb, but it's a little bit too late, and that takes the little piece of bodywork that runs across the right rear tire there on the BMW. It takes that right off the BMW, and that is our debris field. But then we had a Porsche that lost a motor during that early part of the yellow and has now lengthened the yellow, and they're cleaning that up.
So while they're dealing with that, there has been some activity down in pit lane. Calvin?
Well, just an update on the Audi situation. Tom Kristensen, before the R, said that he was very concerned about understeer in that car. They had a faster tyre combination for qualifying, but they said they had to be a little bit more conservative, run a tyre that wouldn't create too much understeer in the car during the race. The critical factor is making a double stint. Also, an update on the number 22 Porsche, the Alex Job machine. They've had to compromise their setup a little bit, not for tyres, but between the two drivers. They like a distinctly different driving style, and hence they've had to slow the car down a little bit so both guys can actually drive the machine.
There is a look at the number 22 car, and obviously that car has been in and out of the pits. Now we're going to go back down to pit lane. Andrew Marriott, what's been developing with the PANOZ team?
Well, very interesting. Klaus Graf did bring the car in. They were running in 5th position, so they weren't going to lose track position at all. They decided to come and put a fresh set of tyres on, so they got a really clean set. They topped it up with fuel, which means they probably won't have to splash and dash now. So it's all looking very exciting. It's been a good move, I think, by the Graf car.
We'll watch for it. Meanwhile, Brabham jumped it big time and gets a little bit of a gap. We are back to green here at Portland, and Brabham putting that V8 launch to good use this time. Kristensen not able to get close enough heading into the chicane.
Well, Brabham practically stopped the field there on the way into the S's, and it was more like a drag race than anything else. And Kristensen was fairly on the ball, kept with it. There was a Porsche there that was about 4th in line. It was a lap car, and that has created an enormous gap, and that's going to hurt Klaus Graf because he is the only one of the leading cars that did stop. You can see the 4 cars now that are the 4 LMP cars, the 900 cars, are all together. Klaus Graf stopped, and he is back mired in the other group of cars there that got held up by one of the cars that was a little bit late off on the restart.
There's that margin you're talking about. You just there see Klaus Graf coming into frame, so he lost a ton of time, and even so, he's opened up a lot more space back to the rest of the pack as well. Now, we had a couple of the BMWs, one of the PTG cars, and one of the Schnitzer cars pitted, as well as both of the vets. We're going to get to that in just a minute, but we're going to ride on board with Tom Kristensen here, see if as things settle in here after this yellow, he's able to do anything with David Brabham. That's the PANOZ right up front.
Incredibly grippy braking zone down into the festival curves there. You would not believe, you stand by and watch these cars slow down, you stand there and you absolutely say to yourself, there's no way car's not going to make it into the chicane, and it does. And here you can see 1A, turn 2, essentially one long corner, very, very hard on left side tires. And then the left-hander here, one of the few left-handers on the racetrack, and this is a racetrack where you'll give up a little bit in the left-handers to gain grip in the right-handers. A lot of the teams will stagger the cars setup-wise. Look at this now, this launch out onto the back straight, turn 5A. And Kristensen very, very close to David Brabham. Up over the curb there, pound those curbs. The first one, you want to stay away from that second one. Now, this is where you want to be. Tucked up underneath, get a good launch, but look at the PANOZ, gets the power down and gets off the corner very, very well. Keep in mind that Kristensen has got Johnny Herbert very close behind. There you saw Herbert.
Boy, Herbert actually closes up just a little bit there, and it looked like maybe Brabham coming through 7 and 8, going into 8 where they do have to dab the brakes, overslows it a little bit, and then uses that to get a little bit of launch out of there.
Well, the thing is that it's such a fast series of corners, and that's where the aerodynamics in terms of downforce really make a tremendous difference, because those corners are so fast. You get a little bit of downforce in these corners because they're 80, 90 mile an hour corners, but when you get up into the end of this straightaway, he only does one downshift and he just turns the thing in. So if this Audi's making more aerodynamic downforce, it's going to be a lot quicker in this section of racetrack.
Now, in that last lap, you can see Brabham did open it up just a little bit here and has expanded that margin. Right here, though, is where he launches off the turn. It's a good run. Kristensen, who we're riding on board with, settles in. Now, right behind Kristensen is Johnny Herbert. Of course, Johnny, former Grand Prix driver, a double winner of the British Grand Prix, but he's never raced here at Portland. And Calvin, he is starting to turn it up a bit.
He really is. He's showing an extreme turn of pace here today, and one reason for that may be the fact that they changed the engine last night. That engine that was in the car done 6,000 kilometers. That's the only engine they've seen in that champion Audi since they received the car at Sebring. They put a fresh lump in it, It does not have the same direct fuel injection that the Jost cars have, but certainly more horsepower. Quick update on the Corvettes. They both came in during that caution period. A little early, you would think, but they're now getting great fuel mileage. They've been working with Bosch on the fuel management. They think they can stretch it to 1 hour and 10 on a fuel load, so they may be able to go the rest of the way with just one more stop, even under green.
Well, Calvin, they did stop relatively early in that yellow, so they got a few laps out there under yellow, which helps consumption as well.
You saw Andy Pilgrim pulling out there to try and pass one of the BMWs. Couldn't get it done in the braking zone. And we talked at the top of the show about how the leading GTS car was only 1 second quicker in qualifying than the leading GT car. And that's because mainly this section of racetrack, which is all about handling. The horsepower doesn't do you any good down here. You can see the BMW is actually going away from the Corvettes in this section of racetrack. You can see the Porsche up ahead staying with Ron Fellows. Now, when they get out on the back straightaway here, the Corvettes will, once they get up on the pipe here, catch the BMWs, but he probably won't have enough juice to get by this car by the time they get to the S's, and he'll have to tuck in here and wait to the front straightaway and then hopefully get by on the front straightaway.
Well, the GT car is so nimble through those twisty bits, and obviously they could go in so deep under braking, and they can get out of the turn very quick. Now let's see. Pilgrim's going to try and tuck in and see if he can make the move, swing out this time and make the pass. Here he comes. He's going to get maybe one of them anyway.
Yeah, he'll get one, but you can see why those GT cars are so quick here. And keep in mind that they'll go 15, 20, 25 minutes longer on fuel than the Corvettes. And one of these cars, the 43 car, stopped during the yellow.
As well as the number 10, of course, that was not only to try and work a little strategy, but that was the car with the damage to that right front wheel flare. They wanted to check for deeper damage, check for tire problems. So a little bit of a different tack taken by some of the teams. Some have stopped already, some haven't, but lots of racing yet to go here at Portland. Welcome back to Portland for the American Le Mans Series 4th round, and the leaders have caught some serious traffic at this stage. On board with Tom Kristensen, he's just getting by a car, but you can see Brabham is about to run into a knot of them, and it's the same knot, I think, that it took Andy Pilgrim forever to get by in the number 4 Corvette. Brabham knifes underneath one, but gets parked right there. Remember, it was a clump of traffic like this where Brabham was able to get around Kristensen. Kristensen would just love to be able to return that favor. And he's going to try, he's going to do everything he can to stay close to Brabham.
Well, keep in mind, again, these guys are racing each other, and they're not always looking in their mirror for the LMP cars to come flashing by. Now, that's a bit of a risky move by Kristensen, but he's got to do it to stay close to Brabham. And he does, but Brabham gets a great run off turn 9 onto the main straightaway, and both of these guys will clear all these GT cars. There you see Klaus Graf now has caught Johnny Herbert. What a battle back there.
Oh, and he may try and mount, but then he gets stumped by a couple of cars and gets parked as well. Oh, and that's one of the Bimmers just got into the back of Herbert.
Now, those Audis are tough, not a problem. Now,
okay.
There's Graf. He goes around the outside. If you're Klaus Graf, you know this is an opportunity to get something done. This is an opportunity to get by Johnny Herbert, but I'll tell you, Klaus Graf not able to get around the first of the Schnitzer BMWs.
Well, Herbert squeezed through one there, and right when Graf finally makes the one pass, Herbert gets the other guy. Now Herbert pops out, goes by one of the Alex Job McKenna cars, and Graf swings around the outside. And Calvin Fish, boy, I tell you, we were seeing traffic play such a crucial role early.
It really is, and Klaus Graf has a big advantage over his teammate with that fuel that he took on board. The PANOZ will struggle here on fuel mileage in comparison with the Audi. They're expecting about 45 minutes with green flag racing. The Audis are expected to go about an hour, so they can do it safely on a 2-stop. Klaus Graf with that extra 20 minutes of fuel may still be good for 2 stops as well, so he's really in with a shout here today.
These two guys lost 3 seconds on that lap to traffic to the 2 guys up front. That would be David Brabham and Kristensen.
That's a good point, though, I think that Calvin made, because Graf, even with that loss of time, is only back about 6 seconds. And
that's like a free pit stop.
Yeah,
it's a free pit stop.
Freebie.
And he got tires, which is really helping him right now in this whole battle. None of these guys have stopped, so it was essentially like a free pit stop.
And you know, another guy who benefited from all of that, I think, would have been Franz Conrad, because while Fellows and Pilgrim were working through that clump of cars, Conrad was out front because he didn't stop on that pit stop. He got a big gap. Of course, now that's going to factor into his pit strategy a bit later on.
Well, right now, Ron Fellows is being shown only about 2.5 seconds behind Franz Conrad. So I think with this not huge field here today at Portland, it's an advantage to come in, and it is almost like a free pit stop. And I'm wondering, Kristensen is thinking about doing something here.
At least showing the nose. Brabham had him covered, but well, those Audis can get into the turns so deep with the great brakes and the great aerodynamics on those cars. But here's where the V8 gives them a little bit of room. But through this section and here, the smooth, fast turns, that has to be Audi territory. But if you can't get by him because it continually snakes around, you get on the straight, and that PANOZ seems to just jump away a little bit.
Well, the cars seem reasonably well matched on this section of the racetrack. Kristensen seems to drive the car into the corner a little bit harder, seems to turn a little earlier. Notice a big difference in line between these two guys in the final corner up at the end of this straightaway. Kristensen turns very early, kind of rolls speed into the corner. Brabham kind of squares the corner a little bit more to get the exit speed run.
Here we go, completing another lap here at Portland International Raceway, and that's exactly what you were talking about. Sweep out onto that front straight, on board with Kristensen.
Now Kristensen knows that there's no way he's going under David Brabham there. He just wants to pull out, show him the headlights. Make those headlights dance around in the rearview mirror. That's what you want to do.
A little bit of a wiggle, though, from Kristensen under braking for the festival, so he's clearly on it. But right now, David Brabham seems to have the answer. There is your top 5 at Portland. Welcome back, everybody. We'd like to remind you to tune into Speed Vision News Race Week on Speed Vision every Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. An awesome source of racing information that has gone on throughout the weekend. Speed Vision News Race Week every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Speed Vision. We are on board with Tom Kristensen, who is on form and trying to run down David Brabham, but Calvin Fish right now, Kristensen just doesn't seem to have the combination.
Well, they seem on lap times, Greg, to be very equally matched. But I spoke to Tom earlier in the weekend, and he said the cars are distinctly different around the racetrack. So when I follow the PANOZ, it's very good through those medium speed, constant radius turns. But he said we have a big advantage coming through the S's. But Jeremy may be able to report on this. That PANOZ is very strong in traffic because it's got the engine over the front tires. It can really brake very deep into the corner without getting the rear end loose. And of course, it has the great torque coming off. So it's ideal dealing with traffic out here this afternoon.
And Calvin, I think it also goes back to what I was talking about a little bit earlier with the Audi and the turbo motor. If you lose your momentum, if you kind of get just a little out of step with what you're normally doing, tougher to get that motor back on the boil, get it making horsepower, whereas with the normally aspirated V8s, you tip your foot into the throttle and the power is there and the car's ready to go.
As Kristensen gets real squirrely going by one of the GT cars, what he wants is wide open track that is hard property and real estate to come by here at Portland. Welcome back to the Road City, everybody, and as you can see, there has been no drop-off in intensity as Brabham catches traffic. Kristensen comes along, and it doesn't get much closer than this. Kristensen all over the back of Brabham as they work through this pack of GT machinery, and these are some of the drivers and cars that are leading in the GT category right now. As a matter of fact, Brabham coming up on the new leader in the category. That's Dirk Mueller in the number 43 Schnitzer machine, and Brabham gets through. No such luck for Kristensen. He's got to wait, lift, wait, breathe, wait, and now swing out. But Brabham, meanwhile, has made good somewhat of an escape, Jeremy.
Well, that one move picks him up about a second, maybe a bit more than a second, and he was really super assertive there with the race car. He just threw it in there and he said, hey, if I can get the pass done here, it's really going to help me out. Now here comes Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert working his way through this group of GT cars. There's Klaus Graf.
And right behind Graf, you see our 675, the LMP 675 category leader, Didier de Radiguez, driving for Dick Barber Racing, and that is a Reynard Judd chassis, and he leads in that category. He now is trying to figure out a way to get through some of the GT cars. This car is one of the older LMP 675 chassis. Now they're looking at, the Reynard is building a chassis to 675 spec that you could then upgrade if you want to a 900 category, but instead of trying to lose weight on a car, you would have to add it, and they think that that will be the package that can turn the tide, and in some longer races anyway, give the LMP 675 category machines, which run a little narrower tire, but they also a smaller motor, but they get much better fuel economy, and their power to weight, when it's done right, should be right on the edge. Might give them a shot at things.
Well, those MGs that were at Le Mans, those were cars that were down on the weight spec, and they were, you know, for real LMP 675 category cars, and that is a class that's going to continue to grow. And Tom Kristensen has not given up on David Brabham, and far from it as they run down the front straightaway here to complete 40 laps.
There's that little move, as you said, trying to get the lights dancing in his mirrors, and oh, number 6 has gone off. That is Hans Stuck, who is on board that car. Now, that's the car that did not stop during that earlier caution, so perhaps his Yokohama is just starting to go off a little bit in terms of effectiveness. It looks like he got away with it. Back on board with Kristensen as this battle remains so just unbelievably close. And right now, Andrew Marriott, David Brabham is feeling some pretty intense pressure again.
He certainly is, but he's so happy with the car now. You know, just after, I should say, Petit Le Mans last year, they made quite a big change to the front suspension of these old roadsters while still developing the new car, now mothballed. And David said it made a lot of difference to the grip of the front end. They've brought the cars out of these mothballs, and that modifications really work for them. That's why the car, I think, is so competitive. Everyone seems to have a spring in their step down here at PANOZ. Just looking at Jan Magnussen, he's looking at the screen. He's not put his helmet on yet, so I think David Brabham probably won't be in for another 10 minutes or so.
Well, it's amazing what a return to competitive form will do for your psyche, no question. Now, look what's happening here. Our top 2 in the LMP 900 and overall have just gone by the second place Corvette in GTS, that's Fellows, and they are closing on Franz Conrad. Now, Jeremy, just a couple moments ago, those 2 cars, the Celine and the Vette, were separated by about 2/3 of a second, but now these 2 LMP leaders coming through are going to mess that battle up a little bit as well.
Well, I'll tell you, bad news for the Corvette guys, because they've got fresher tires. Remember, this car, the 26 car of Franz Conrad, did not stop on the yellow. The 2 Corvettes did, Ron Fellows and Andy Pilgrim. They've got fresher tires, and so this is bad news for the Corvette team, because this car has more mileage on the tires and is still running competitive lap times with the Corvette. As a matter of fact, that gap was quite a bit smaller just a few laps ago, and Franz Conrad seems to be going away from Ron Fellows right now.
And Conrad does just that in some of the remaining LMP cars. There's Herbert coming up. But Calvin Fish, it was rather an interesting development. The Celine team tried a rather unique change in strategy mid-weekend.
They did, Greg. They won Sebring earlier this year on the Goodyear tires, but Goodyear really got their hands around that Corvette program. They've changed the construction of all of their compounds, so the 480s, the 595s like these teams have been running all year are now different, and Conrad has found that it just doesn't suit that Celine. You're talking about a different configuration of race car. Rear engine in the Celine, front engine in the Corvette. They said at Sears Point, the tire just went away totally halfway through the stint. We had to make a change. We believe in Goodyear, but we think that the Dunlop right now is better suited to our race car.
Well, of course, the Dunlops have been developed. Ray Malek, who builds these race cars in the UK, also runs these race cars in Europe in the European Le Mans Series. And the Dunlops, as he locks up that right front, the Dunlops have been developed in Europe for the Celine. So I think that's where Franz Conrad's comfort level is right now.
And by the way, the Celine in the middle of a pretty good weekend. They won earlier today across the pond in the Most circuit for the European Le Mans Series race in Czechoslovakia, going for 2. Welcome back to Portland, everybody, for the Portland Grand Prix. And you see right there, Brabham has ducked into pit lane. Now, there is a speed limit in the pits of about 37 miles per hour at 60 kph. And he has brought it down, and they, of course, have the rev limiters here, which help them, and he's heading right toward Andrew Marriott.
Actually, he's heading right towards Chris Gorn. He's up to the feet of Chris Gorn. This is a scheduled stop. Chris told me a little earlier that they didn't think they'd have to make the slash and dash. And so they are just where the fuel is going in now. It's taking a lot of fuel. The guys are poised with the guns, and you'll hear them rattling away in a moment. Fresh Michelin's going on. All the tires they're going to run are unscrubbed. They didn't have time to scrub this setup. So David will take a little while to scrub those in. He's staying in the car. He's looking cool, calm, and collected. Still, that fuel is going into this PANOZ. And of course, that big American V8 engine, it makes that delightful rumble. And now you hear the rattle guns. The car is up on the jacks. These guys have practiced this many times. The Michelins go on. The backs are now tightened up. David is sitting there still impassively. The rear wheels are on. The right rear is a bit late. The car goes off the jack. It fires away goes David Brabham. And gets it very sideways, but it's back on the racetrack, and that was a good stop from PANOZ.
Good stop from PANOZ. We jump on board with Tom Kristensen, now our new leader, as Brabham rejoins. And of course, they were able to get past the third of the way mark fairly comfortably, but we did have that long sequence of yellow. The question here is how much longer this car, the number 1, can stay out.
Well, remember, these factory Audis have the direct injection. That means the fuel in these cars, it is fuel injected, but the fuel is injected directly into the combustion chamber, as opposed to being injected into the port before the intake valve, which means they're getting between 6 and 10% better fuel economy than they were last year, and that is a real advantage for these cars. Look at those tires. A lot of pickup on the inside of the tire rim there, which would cause some balance problems.
Kristensen slips underneath Franz Conrad in the Celine, and now he leads. Now, he has not pitted yet, so wouldn't necessarily expect that. Johnny Herbert now is second in the champion Audi car. There is Conrad in the Celine, the GTS leader, right there, the white and teal machine. He continues to lead in that category, and he's opened it up now, Jeremy, to the tune of about 4 seconds over Ron Fellows.
Well, that's why I said bad news for the Corvette guys, because Franz Conrad admits, Franz Conrad's a good driver, but he admits that Terry Borcheller is a better driver. So it is bad news for the Corvette guys, because Franz Conrad's team has not put their best guy in the car yet, and they have older tires on that car, and the Corvette guys are not presently directly in touch with this Celine on the racetrack.
Good look at Franz right there. Of course, he's also the team owner and is a very busy gentleman. They also run a car in the European Le Mans series, and one of their cars running at the Mo circuit earlier, of course, took the win. So it's been a very interesting event. Actually, they were second to the RML team of Ray Mallock in that event. So
well, he's planning on winning both the European and the American Le Mans GTS championships this year. Look at Klaus Graf has closed up. Now, there goes the champion Audi into the pit lane. So that gives you an indication that is the old technology Audi engine. It does not have the direct injection. So this will be a good indication. Calvin, you're there.
Yes, I am. Johnny Herbert brings it into a stop. He'll be staying in the car, but we expect a tire change, which is unusual. Typically, these teams like to do fuel only when the driver's staying in, and when there is a driver change, they'll change tires. So they must be suffering a little bit on tire wear. The car's had a little bit of understeer all weekend long. Johnny and Andy Wallace, the two English boys, have been working hard on the setup to try and get it dialed in. Johnny's certainly running as strong as he has all weekend in terms of pace in comparison with the other cars. They're just waiting for the last few drops of fuel, and then I think the wheel guns are going to go into action. Full fuel load looks like. Johnny gets a nice drink, a little bit of refreshment. He's used to a hard pace, 2 hours work as normal in the Grand Prix, and he's going to do close to that here this afternoon with a double stint. So it's going to be a fresh set of Michelins, and it looks routine so far, guys.
Well, you know, I've been watching Tom Kristensen's onboard, and I know they look at the little donut on the side of that car. So Johnny Herbert has been in traffic. He gets fired up and gets out. I've been watching Kristensen's onboard, and I'll tell you, his car has been moving around, and the Audi guys usually do double stint on tires, but I'm going to be very surprised if Tom Kristensen does.
Yeah, it's visibly loose out on the track. It has been loose in, loose out under braking, and that's not normally how the Audis tend to carry an attitude through the corners. So it'll be interesting, and we'll be back for it in just a minute. Welcome back, and your race leader, Tom Kristensen, is in.
So brings it into the pit lane. We believe it's going to be fuel only. There may be a charge of left side tires. Tire wear is a factor here at Portland. And Tom has radioed in that he's not completely happy with the setup on the car. The tire technicians are allowed to look at the tires. That's what they're doing on that left front. And I think he's given the thumbs up that they're okay. So it should be fuel only, and they're going to send him back out. So it'll be a full fuel load, no tires. Kristensen will stay in, and Capella will relieve him on the next stop.
Which of course makes that a very fast fast stop relative to everybody else, and that has allowed him to get out relative to Brabham with a much better stop, being very mindful of that the speed limit. Well, that's tough to say.
You okay?
Down in the, I'm okay, I'm fine. And that moves up 51. Klaus Graf, who remember started dead last, has moved into the lead. And Graf, of course, has pitted. So you were talking about, Jeremy, this might be coming into a big flow here.
Yeah, Graf pitted on the 17th lap, which was about 21 minutes into the race. Right now, we're 1 hour and 12 minutes into the race, so in a 2 hour and 45-minute event. So Klaus Graf, with essentially what ended up being an almost free pit stop for this PANOZ, because remember, you saw Brabham took tires, Kristensen did not, and Klaus Graf was able to take tires and got held up there by the number 42 BMW. Klaus Graf was able to take tires under yellow, and that is a real freebie.
And he believes that, of course, it's going to be a while before he is going to need to stop. Now we're on board with the number 10 machine. This is Bill Oberlin, who's worked his way up into the second spot in GT. And let's take a look, Jeremy, at some of the telemetry from this car.
Well, that yellow graph is the speed graph, and you can see it building speed up the back straightaway. Now, let's keep careful note of the speed through the S's of this GT car. They'll probably top out right around about 150 miles an hour, down to a little less than 120, about 110 miles an hour through the S's there. There's the lateral G below that, about 1.6 lateral Gs through the last turn, turn 9. There goes one of the PANOZ cars.
So I point him by. I believe that is Graf. Timo's rocking by. So about top speed for these guys, about 160, 155, 160 or so miles an hour. Now for a comparison, Jeremy, through the same sequence, let's take a look on board the vet.
And this is the 4 car. This is Andy Pilgrim on board. Now, this is out onto the back straightaway. Remember, about 150 miles an hour for the BMW. Look at this, the Corvette's still accelerating, right past 150. Now, watch the speed through the S's here. About the same, about 110 miles an hour through the middle part of that corner. Lateral G, about 1.5, 1.4, so actually a little bit less lateral G. Not surprising for these cars. They're a lot bigger, a lot heavier than those smaller BMWs. Again, it's a top speed into the festival curves, about 160 miles an hour.
And we believe the Celine has come down into the pits. They're in, and there's Terry Rochler, who's flown back from Quebec, Canada, and he is about to get on board. Andrew?
Yeah, he is, and he had a horrible day. He said yesterday, driving a BMW, he's slightly into the Celine now, and I'm just watching what they're going to do with the tyres. It looks as if they're going to take 4 fresh tyres on this lovely GTS car. Fuel has gone in, it's going up on the jacks now, and yes, they're definitely going to change all 4, and then we're back in this big battle with the Corvettes, guys.
Well, Jeremy, having made the switch to the Dunlop tires midstream here this weekend, there's a little bit of uncertainty, I'm thinking, about just kind of what the wear is going to be. It's far warmer and sunnier than it has been at any point so far in this event.
Well, that's true, but remember, Greg, that these Dunlops have been developed in Europe for the Celines that are running over there. So, you know, the Dunlop engineer is a little bit slow on that right front. The Dunlop engineers, boy, that's a lot of time they're losing. The Dunlop engineers are familiar with how these tires react in different weather conditions to the race car, to this particular race car. Now, the drivers are less familiar with these tires, although both of them have had some time on the tires. Terry Rochler was here on Friday, and he would get some laps on Friday.
And now let's go back up to the front and on board with Kristensen. Another look at the telemetry here, and this should be markedly different.
Now, watch this. Yeah, this is going to point out, look at the acceleration here. We're going to sweep past 150 pretty easily. We're getting some little spikes in there. But now, watch the speed through the S's here. Big difference here. Look at this. Middle of the corner, 130 miles an hour, 135 almost. Look at the lateral G here. Peaked up over 2 Gs. Lateral acceleration in the last corner there. So you can see big differences in the high-speed cornering with these Audis. Front straightaway, continuing to accelerate right up until the braking point at over 180 miles an hour.
Kristensen stays on board, as we saw. By the way, his teammate, the number 2 Audi, has pitted as well on the lap 58. And Biela out, and Manuel Timo in. He was the guy who qualified the car. So they're going to try and make up some seriously lost ground.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series is brought to you by Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires. And by Cadillac, the fusion of design and technology.
Welcome back to Portland. The number 2 Audi has been taken over by Emanuele Pirro, his teammate Frank Biela. Frank looked like he had a little bit of loss of pace there after a few laps. Is there an imbalance in the race car?
Yeah, it was a big problem. Actually, we thought we would have found a good setup for the race, but after the match, it was a big overspeed, and it was just very, very difficult to ride.
Why is this? I know this weekend there's a distinct lack of track time, and when you're trying to share it in this type of racing with 2 drivers, does that contribute to not getting the car right?
For sure, that's one reason, but it's the same situation for everybody, so I don't know why, but it was struggling most of the weekend, and I guess today Emanuele thought that qualifying it was very good, so we thought it should be good today, but unfortunately it's not. Maybe it was just a bad set of tires, I don't know. Emanuele doesn't know, and I hope he can do better.
You're surprised by the PANOZ this weekend?
For sure, the performance is very good. We expected them to be very strong, but not that strong.
That's the word down here in Audi.
Well, of course, we have seen that. You can see Pirro is in front of Kristensen, which means he has regained that lead lap. Did it in traffic, but it's not like Kristensen is exactly closing up on him at all at this point.
Well, let's put it this way. 2 laps ago, Kristensen had a 20-second lead on Dave Brabham. That lead is now down to 15 seconds. Brabham running about 2 seconds a lap quicker than Kristensen. I think not changing tires was a serious mistake by this lead Audi. Only time will tell, but Brabham is hunting him down. Remember, we're not talking about, when you put fresh tires on, we're not just talking about outright lap time. We're talking about the ability to dance the car around a little bit in traffic and do some things with it when you absolutely need to make some moves in traffic. And if you don't have that little bit extra bit of grip that those fresher tires will give you, you're at a real disadvantage.
And we're apparently seeing that played out as we continue to ride on board with Peterson. We're going to go drone back a little bit. Remember earlier we were talking about as the car of Biela, coming up behind him, the number 30 White Lightning Racing Porsche right there, the damage on the front end of that car. And this car, there was so much promise for this team earlier in the year as a factory supported effort. It was become a very emotional roller coaster season for them. Earlier, we took a look at this season. The paths of Bob Wallach and White Lightning Racing crossed as a result of Porsche Motorsport shifting its factory support from Dick Barber Racing, the team with which Wallach and Sascha Maassen won this race a year ago, to both Alex Job Racing and White Lightning Racing for 2001.
Well, obviously they had 4 drivers, 4 factory drivers, and Randy Popes was already one of Alex Job's drivers. So there was Bob was the odd man out in filling in the spot. The factory felt that it was a good position to give it to White Lightning, and I certainly pushed in that direction, and Bob pushed in that direction because Bob made many calls to me and said, can we do this, can we do that? I think Bob was happy with us, with our team being small and catering for him. He was the man, so we would look after Bob.
I got on very well with Bob. Sascha Maassen, who drove with him last year, said to me when he heard I was going to be driving with Bob, he said he's the perfect teammate. 1, because he's still fast enough to keep you on your toes. 2, because he never wants to qualify the car, so you get to always qualify, which is great because most racing drivers love qualifying. And 3, he had an enormous amount of experience that you could draw from, and he would help you. And at Sebring in particular, he was taking enormous satisfaction from helping me engineer the car with Walter Gerber, and we were fast. I mean, we were really fast. I mean, the last session that I drove together with Bob, we were the fastest. We were the fastest out there.
Upon learning of Bob's tragic death on the eve of the Sebring Enduro, White Lightning Racing immediately withdrew their entry, and the team did not race again in the United States until 2 weeks ago at Sears Point.
It was kind of tough coming back. We did a test with the Cup car, and it felt good to be at the racetrack. When we went to Sonoma, there was a little sadness knowing that Bob wouldn't be there. But then working with Timo is a real pleasure because he's the next generation driver. He's absolutely quick. He loves the car.
Young Porsche Supercut hot shoe Timo Bernhard was selected for the unenviable task of attempting to step into Bob Wallet's very big shoes.
And it's difficult because he was a legend, you know. He was a legend in Porsche history, and he had so many victories in America, in Europe, and everywhere, and it was just great. But I have to say, for me, at the end, it was a good opportunity to do a step forward and to step up to the American Le Mans Series. But I have to say, there is no pressure. Also, not for the team, not from the team, and not from the officials, not from the Porsche sports chief. They say do your own job and do what you can, and we don't expect you to be like him. Just do your job and do it as good as you can, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Things have moved on a lot, obviously. I haven't forgotten about him at all. I mean, I think about him quite a lot. In fact, whenever I'm driving, especially because it's Walter, I think about him. I try and think maybe what he would have tried and stuff like that, you know. But you know, life goes on. That's in a way, that's the sad part, you know. I would just be absolutely delighted if we could win one this year and, you know, dedicate it to him.
Anybody who's followed sports car racing for any amount of time knows the legend of Bob Wallach and knows how badly he has missed. And of course, that weekend at Sebring where Bob so tragically lost his life, Tequila Patron went on to win in one of the outings, and then in April he too died in a testing accident in preparation for Le Mans. It has been a tough year in many ways. And there you see the number 30 car has just completed its stop. They are trying to recover and deal with it as best they can. And perhaps for a group of racers, and in trying to honor a racer, the best thing to do is just get out and race. We've had a bit of a struggle here this weekend. Of course, you see the damage to the nose of the car, and they have dropped back just a little bit. But young Timo Bernhard now has the opportunity to get out of this car, go to work, and try and fill those very, very large shoes, as we said. We'll be back before Welcome back to Portland, and number 10 is in the pits. Bill Okerlund has brought the BMW down in. Apparently a flat right rear tire was the cause for the pit stop at this time, but of course they're doing fuel and now doing tires all around, and while they were at it, Okerlund is out, and Nicholas Johnson is on board, and they're telling him, fire it up, a little delay. Now he takes the Yokohama shot filter prototype technology with BMW back on course and heads up. Look at that chatter from that red one. Then lights it up, and away he goes. We get a report to number 43, the leader in GT is in now. Jack Mueller has brought the car in. Are they doing a driver change, Andrew?
Well, I have to be honest with you, Greg, I was just watching Bill Okerlund get out and having a quick word with him, so I'm a little late. The two BMW pits are separated by about 200 yards. I'm trying to sprint down here to see what's happening, but I'll have to let you know.
All right, Andrew, well, they did in fact do the driver change, so it is Mueller is out, Eklund is in, and the number 3 has come down in the pits. You see Ron Fellows heading out of the car. There's Johnny O'Connell putting in the seat insert, climbing aboard as well. Let's go down the calendar.
As you mentioned, Greg, Johnny O is jumping in. He's fresh and ready to go. Ron looked a little wary as he climbed over the wall there. Very hot conditions. These front-engine GTS cars are really a lot of work for these boys. No air conditioning on these cars now. They've taken all of the ancillaries out, trying to get this car down to that 1150 kilogram weight limit. So Johnny's in. It looks like a routine stop. The number 4 car is in at the same time, just in front of Johnny. So they're waiting for the fuel to go in, normal ALMS rules, and then they'll work on the tires. Going to look there. You see Andy Pilgrim. He has jumped out. Kelly Collins in behind the wheel. Going to walk over to the wall there, try and get a word with Ron. Ron, how's it going, mate? That's Salim with Terry behind the wheel. Looks like it has a lot of pace right now.
Yeah, what's happening, it's just gotten so greasy. Like I said, we're starting to lose flow of traction. Just hang in there. The sun's really hot.
They're hoping that the fuel strategy here will work out. They should be good to go to the checkered flag. The Salim may need a splash.
Well, I'll tell you, Gavin, we're about 1 hour 36 minutes into a 2 hour 45-minute race, so they're going to have to go 1 hour and roughly 10 minutes, which is going to be certainly pushing the window for these Corvettes, no question about it.
And by the way, we get a report now that the number 10, Nicholas Johnson, behind the wheel of BMW, will be flying for a black flag, too fast in pit lane, exiting. And he was on the limiter. You could hear it jabbering on the limiter, so unless he just let go of the button a little bit too soon, and it jumped, and then we saw him, I think we saw him briefly there, off track as well.
So an eventful outlap for Nicholas Johnson. No question. Look at this. This is the battle here. This is Lagorce in the number 51. Johnny Herbert in the number 38. Battle for third position.
Heading into turns 1, that long triple apex 1A2 complex here. And well, Lagorce, that car looking a little bit loose out there. Of course, they stopped quite some time ago. That second stop, did they not take turns?
Which car are we talking about, Greg? We're talking about the 51 car?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that, because he just looks something quite loose.
They didn't take tires. They stopped on lap 61, which is about 1 hour and 18 minutes into the race, and they did take tires. And just so no one thinks we've forgotten about what's going on up in the front, I've been harping about Tom Kristensen's tires. The gap now down to 7 seconds Kristensen has over Brabham, so we'll certainly keep an eye on that. This is the best battle up front right now. Here's Kristensen. He continues to struggle with those worn tires, and he has lost. Remember, after the pit stops, he had a 20-second lead on Brabham, which is now down to 7 seconds, and you can see the car moving around on him there.
And he is the only car that in this race, I think, that has stopped and not taken on any kind of tires. They are still on the absolute original. And there's some smoke coming from the back of the Saleen out of that right exhaust bank. Leader in GTS, and Terry Borchler has been going incredibly quickly in that car. But, oh, definitely some smoke here right in front of Kristensen.
It's okay, Greg. Terry Borchler right now shown with about a 15-second lead over the first of the two Corvettes, which is Johnny O'Connell. O'Connell now in for Ron Fellows. Kelly Collins now in for Andy Pilgrim to finish up this last hour in a little bit.
Let's go down to pit lane. Andrew Barrett, you with Steve Saleen?
Yes, I am, Steve. We think there's a bit of smoke coming out of your car. What's the problem?
We're not sure yet. We'll tell them to keep on going and we'll see what happens. Obviously, it doesn't look very good right now.
Looking for 3 wins in the weekend because you obviously had the victory over in Boston, looking for the victory in Trois-Rivières as well.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard about how they've done up in Montreal. Have you?
No, frankly, we haven't. We're trying to find out.
Obviously, we were trying to win there, and obviously, we're trying to win here in Oregon, but we'll see what happens here.
Steve's not going to make any friends up in Quebec, by the way, because Montreal is very different from Trois-Rivières.
Yes, and Trois-Rivières prides themselves on their racing, and the fact it is in Trois-Rivières. But had they been able to accomplish that, and I mean, it's not on the cards yet, although it doesn't look good, as Steve said, it would have been remarkable. 3 wins, 3 different races, 3 different countries on the same weekend, but it's looking a little bleak right now.
Well, in the lap that we have followed this car, the smoking has gotten quite a bit worse, and it's not looking good for this lane, no question about it.
And he's not running in any traffic, and suddenly he's running 2 to 2.5 seconds off the pace he was running a bit earlier. So apparently Terry Borchler is aware there are problems on board. Welcome back to Portland International Raceway, round 4 of the American Le Mans Series. We're looking at the battle for third right now. Frank Lagorce, the number 51 PANOZ, is under immense attack right now from Johnny Herbert, the 38 champion Audi. And again, we're seeing that balance we talked about earlier, where the PANOZ strong in spots, and then the Audi comes on strong, particularly entering the corners is where the Audi really makes up ground, like right here.
You had a hard time not saying champion Porsche.
I did.
Look at Herbert there. He uses a lot of racetrack out on the main straightaway. This part of the racetrack used as a drag strip at times. That's why it has all the lines on it. That's why it's so wide. And you can see Lagorce there, the car moving around under braking, kind of dancing. These guys brake very, very late down into the festival curves. Remember, both these cars took tires when they stopped, so you're dealing with a pretty equal platform in terms of what these guys have got under them right now. Remember, Kristensen, the only one of the LMP 900 cars not to take tires. And by the way, just taking a look at the gap up front, 3 seconds now for Kristensen to Brabham, but this is the best battle up front. These guys, by the way, running about 21 seconds behind Tom Kristensen.
At this point, Herbert has to be awful tired of the back end of that PANOZ. So he's been parked here for a long time. He closes up, drifts back, gets back again, but has not been able to find a way by. Now opportunity may happen as they catch this big clump of traffic. Meanwhile, we're going to jump up front. There is Kristensen out front leading away with that margin. The last lap, not this current lap, but the last lap, Brabham ran almost 3 seconds faster. Kristensen obviously bottled up in traffic. But there's Kristensen. There is Brabham. The official margin now, last time by start finish, Jeremy, 2.8 seconds. But Brabham is clearly quicker, even on a clear track, let alone the traffic.
I guess by the time it's all said and done, you can make an argument that the Audi either did or did not make the right choice on tires. In other words, by the time they get to the next fuel window, Brabham will probably be right with Kristensen. You could say, well, you know, we could have changed tires, but we would have been with them the whole time, or we decided not to change tires, and they caught us up, and in the end, it all balances out.
They just saw a shot as Kristensen came through the final corner. The left front of that car, that looper that has been bent up, sticking up in the air. Calvin Fish, we've seen that before. Is that a critical issue?
Well, I think it is, Greg. What happens sometimes, here we're looking at the spare nose of the #1 Audi. You see these loopers on the top wheel well, and what happens is you get a lot of tire build-up. The marbles congregate under here on this grill, and sometimes it forms like almost a 2-pound gumball, and if that drops down and the tire runs over it, it whips up and smashes through those loopers, so it does take away downforce and the aerodynamic efficiency of the race car. But I believe that this one car is now in its fuel window. This spare nose is in the back of the pit box, so I don't think they're going to change it. They're going to leave the car as is. Capello will be jumping in here shortly, relieving Tom Kristensen.
And Jeremy, thank you, Calvin. Jeremy, these cars, if they have a weak spot, if you will, they tend to sometimes suffer a little bit of understeer. They can afford to lose any more downforce up front.
Well, there's no question about that. Now, Calvin's jumping in their fuel window, which means they can stop anytime, take fuel, and they will get to the end of the race. They'll make the distance because we've got just over 1 hour remaining in this 2-hour, 45-minute event. So they can stop any time, change that nose. They're obviously going to take tires. If they don't take tires, they're completely nuts. And actually, it wouldn't be fair to Capello to not take tires. I'm sure Kristensen, when he gets out of that car, is going to be just beat, because driving a car on used tires like that is a lot more work than driving a car that has got fresh tires. And look at Brabham get bogged just a little bit there by the Viper and all that hard work. Now, he was pretty much right up behind the Audi, and he's lost now about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, at the start-finish line, he was at half a second, so he made up another second that last lap, and he was closer still going into the chicane, but he obviously dropped down a little bit here. But the way he's running compared to the way Kristensen is slipping and sliding, Brabham ought to be able to close that up very, very quickly. The funny problem we talked about here is since you are constantly dealing with traffic here.
Well, that's just the nature of sports car racing. Always has been, always will be, as long as you continue to run multi-classes.
This may be good for Brabham. Well, he's in. #1, Kristensen has ducked into the pits, Calvin.
He brings it into his pit box. He's the first pit stop on pit lane, so he comes in, hands it over to Dindo, and these guys are going to try and get Dindo his second win here at Portland. He won here last year with Alan McNish. In fact, last year they almost went the complete race distance on the same set of Michelins, but it was slightly damp, so the whole by about 20 minutes they went the distance. So you see the front fender there, where it's torn up with those louvers. It's not too badly damaged, certainly not getting down around the tire where it may cut it down. So the fuel went in, and it's not a full fuel load. They're actually a little light of a full load, so that's a little shorter stop on fuel, and now they're changing all 4 tires. I don't see any other changes to the car. Dindo's in, he's strapped in, he's just waiting for the final okay. Routine start once again for Yost.
So they just rip that louver off as opposed to replacing the entire nose, trying to save time in the pits. And Capello on his way out, you see that flashing red light? That's the rev limiter, keeping that speed under the limit. As they come down pit lane, boy, it's just a crawl too, isn't it? Meanwhile, there's your leader, Brabham, out front, and fairly comfortably so at this point. Now, Capello came in here, the longest win streak in LMP 900 series history, 4 wins in a row, but Brabham leads it right now. Back in Portland, your race leader, David Brabham, brings the number 50, PANOZ, down into pit lane, already undoing the belts. Andrew, we expect to see driver change.
Change should be certain certainly will have a driver change here. Jan Magnussen will get in the car. He has to get in the car because David's done the 2 stints required distance. Little Jan gets in. They have a little fillip they put behind his back. David stays on the other side of the cockpit, strapping him in. And the fuel, meanwhile, is going. They are going to double stint these tyres. Don't seem at all concerned about them at all. No tyres near the car at all. So they've obviously conserved the tyres very well. David hops off the car now. And it'll fire on just as all that fuel's gone in, and the race will be back on. What a superb effort by David Brabham. There you hear the car rumble away down the pit lane.
So they are away with Magnussen behind the wheel. Certainly no drop-off in ability there. Now, we've been watching this battle now for the lead, essentially, between Herbert and the white champion and Boris and Jeremy just a moment ago. It got pretty intense.
This is on the infield, and he tries to run around the outside. That's a pretty low percentage move there, trying to make something happen on the outside of turn 4. Goes to the power here, gets very sideways. I don't really know where he thought he was going to go with that, but whatever.
He didn't lose much, but he's going to make a turn into the pits, and Herbert brings the champion Audi from second down to the pit lane. Perhaps a little concerned about damage, although I don't see anything significant from this angle here, but Johnny Herbert brings it in, hits the marks. He's going to be getting out of the car. Andy Wallace on board. Looks as though they're going to go after all 4 tires.
I'll tell you, Calvin, you're there.
Yes, we are, and it looks like they're looking at the tyres. The wheel guns are at the ready, so they're waiting for the fuel to be in. Andy's struggling a little bit there to get into the seat. These guys are approximately the same size. Fueling is done. Now they're doing tyres, and this is what comes in handy if the driver changes a little bit off. You really don't waste any time by putting the tyres on. Andrew.
Yeah, David Brabham's maybe looking remarkably fresh after that long double stint there.
Yeah, it's great racing. Tom got me on the start. We were having a little trouble with the fronts on, on cold tyres. So I kind of predicted he'd try to outbrake me, but saved the tyres. Wish the tyres just ran so consistent the whole time. And I was able to catch him through the traffic and just keep in front of him. And then on the second stint, we changed tyres. And I managed to catch up again, so and get back into the lead. So it's been great racing for the PANOZ team.
It must feel fantastic with racing.
Like, there's like 10 Christmases at once.
David, great job, but go and take a drink. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely great performance. Now keep in mind, Brabham won here in Portland in '99 with Bernhard. Last year was second with Magnussen. Of course, it was the Audi that won. And we saw the number 38 champion Audi held a little bit in pit lane for some sort of infraction. Trying to clarify that. By the way, David Brabham has led 42 of 91 laps. That should put him, at least at this point, with more laps left than anybody else. Toward the points. Back on the Calvin. What's up with that penalty?
Well, the problem was they had a crew member help the driver change. We mentioned Andy Wallace having a bit of a fuss going on there. The rule states either the co-driver or a crew member can help, not both. So they had a crew member and they had Herbert helping him do the change, and that cost them 20 seconds here after the pit stop.
Well, guys, a couple of things going on here. And the biggest is that the PANOZ team decided not to change tires. They're deciding to double stint. Right now, Magnussen is running 3rd, Capello running 4th. Remember, Boris in the 2nd PANOZ, the number 51 car has not stopped yet. Manuel Impero in the number 2 Audi has not stopped yet, so those two still need to stop. Boris is leading, Impero is 2nd right now. Magnussen 3rd, Capello 4th. Right now, Magnussen only has about 3.2 seconds over Capello. Capello has the fresher tires. That's going to be a big issue. This is Andy Wallace now completing his first flying lap in the champion car.
Speaking of the champion car, let's take a look there. There you see the crew member leading to help, and there you see right there Herbert helping out on both and connection. So you can't argue with it. As a rule, there were more than just either or working on the driver change. It was both. Tough penalty to have to suffer, but it was worth it.
Well, everyone in the pit lane certainly has to be on their toes during pit stops because it's very easy to break those rules. The Le Mans rules being very, very specific in terms of the number of people allowed over the wall and what you're allowed to do.
Of course, that may be Herbert, although he's running the team now for 5 laps. Welcome back to Portland. We're on board with the #1 Audi, currently in the 4th spot, but had been contending for the lead. Listen, he cannot get out of gear. That car is jammed in gear. Wait till he gets out of the festival turn, the chicane. Listen, there is nowhere for that car to go gear-wise.
Well, watch the Corvette will pull out on him because he only got the 1 gear.
Kristensen, who worked so hard early to have it go away here. It sounds like at times he can't even maintain any kind of rev, as you said. It just starts to tail off.
Yeah, remember before and there's one of the PANOZ cars going by him, putting him a lap down. Right now, that last lap he ran was about 1:33, which is about 25 seconds slower than he should be going. And I think this one's going to be even slower.
They do have in these cars, they have a multiple ignition select system, don't they, where you can hit a couple of different switches and try a different electronic computer, but nothing seems to be working.
Well, the thing is, as I said, these cars electronically are just so complicated between the shifting mechanisms and the fuel mapping, the ignition mapping, just so complex.
We're going to drop back. There's a great battle starting to unfold. This is for second in GT, and there's the pass. Boris said just knifed underneath York Mueller. The Schnitzer BMW falling to the Milner Prototype Technology Group car. That's Yokohama versus Michelin. And right now, it was a very decisive move by Boris.
No question about it. The team car to Mueller, the other Schnitzer BMW with Frederick Eklund on board, is presently leading GTs about 20 seconds up the road from these two.
See if Mueller's going to be able to come back at him with the way Boris went by him. It certainly appears that Boris may have just a little bit of the advantage at this stage. Down the chicane, and there's Capello down in pit lane. They dropped the car off the jacks. Now they're going to take the engine cover off. Looks like they're looking back in the gearbox area. So could it actually just be a gear select hydraulic issue of some sort?
Well, like I said, Greg, these cars are so complicated. And they have been incredibly reliable. Remember, they won the 24 Hours of Le Mans the last 2 years running. There you can see Calvin's having up in there. Calvin, I don't know, can you see anything in there?
Apparently he's having a problem with the mic, and they're bringing another one down to Calvin, so he's there. And nothing's more frustrating for Calvin Fish than being there and not being able to say anything about it, because he's so knowledgeable. So the camera guy goes to work for him, some exceptional camera work from. That's they call him Shifty. He's a great guy, Tom Shabel down in there, and they're trying to get in and really show you exactly what's happening as they go to work on it. Boy, right right in deep there. Not coming around. And be interesting to see. There's got to be just immense frustration in the fellow's eyes. More strain he's wanting to fears, and that's not going to happen today.
Well, he was closing up on Magnussen at about a second a lap, and that was going to be the battle for the lead because, as I said before, both Boris and the number 51 PANOZ and Pirro, the number 2 Audi, were going to need to stop. So effectively, that was going to be the battle for the lead.
There is Reinhold Jost, who is looking at one of the few down moments here that he's experienced in an awful long time. As I said, Capella came here 4 wins in a row, with 7 wins in the last 8 races, and the second in Vegas. Unbelievable. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Portland for the Grand Prix of Winter for the American Le Mans Series. There's your leader, number 2, Emmanuel Pirro, and he currently has about a 15-second lead over Jan Magnussen, the number 50 PANOZ. However, things have been a little more interesting for the third-place car, the team car for Magnussen. That's the number 51 machine of Klaus Graf, who currently runs in the 5th spot. As we get a good look there at Pirro at work. But wow, he's not that far behind here. He's almost about to go down a lap. Lap ago into the chicane. He had a major look. We're going to take a look at him here.
Remember, these guys brake so late, they roll so much speed into the apex. You can see the car just gets away from him, getting to the apex. They brake all the way, they brake and downshift all the way down into that apex. The car just got away from him. Clearly, there was no one around him, so it was all Klaus Graf, and got it into first gear, got it turned around pretty quickly, but still lost a little bit of time. Well, now, I'm sorry, now the number 2 car is coming around trying to put him lap down.
We've seen even qualifying, Ralph has no qualms about exploring the limit, exceeding it on occasion. And there he is, but he's being chased hard by Pirro at this point. Now, of course, one of the concerns that we see, we talk about the tire battle and everything, tire build-off and cut tires, but one of the things that, in terms of technology that's come along that has been very comforting for the drivers is tire pressure sensors to warn them of any impending problem. Andrew Marion took a look at that in our Michelin test.
One of every racing driver's fears is a tyre deflation, a tyre going down, a puncture, or for some other reason. But now Audi, the people from Michelin and Bosch have worked on this special device. Just look here. This is a radio sender unit, and this unit can detect if there's a tyre deflation. It sends a message back to the cockpit of the car. That puts a little light on to tell the driver you may have a tyre going down. But it also sends a message to the telemetry in the pit, and that tells them exactly which tyre is going down, so they can tell the driver, tell him to come in, make a pit stop and change that tyre. This is interesting technology, and it's already finding its way into road cars. Racing is definitely improving the breed.
Well, very much so, and as I said, as Andrew pointed out, it's so important for the drivers as well. Just peace of mind, we're not going down to the pedal, and the car is back up to speed, but Andrew, they spent quite a bit of time down in the pit solving the problem.
Yeah, that's right. I've let you down here because obviously Calvin's got that problem, which is not solved yet, but they have solved the problem with the Audi number 1. The car is going absolutely fine now. First they thought it was a steering wheel, they took that off, they changed that. Then they took the engine cover off, they played with certain things, and something in that very complicated electronic system was giving trouble. They fixed it, the car has gone out. They won't tell us exactly what it was, but the number 1 car, which has dominated, of course, has won every round of the American Le Mans Series this year, is not going to win today.
No, indeed, there is the number 2, Pirro. We're getting reports that it might very well be making its final stop, we would suspect, here coming in. And if he does, Jeremy, you were talking about if their late pit stop and the way they've been able to nurse fuel, this could be a quick one.
Well, they've got less than 30 minutes to go in this race. If they don't take tires, which I'd be very surprised if they do, this is going to be a short fill. Right now, he's got about an 18-second lead on Magnussen. Calvin, let's go to Calvin.
Well, Pirro stays in the car, shouldn't be a full fuel load, definitely no tyres in the ready, just the fire extinguisher. They're going to be a time stop, I believe. It's taking a little bit long, we've only got about 30 minutes left. Splash of gas there, went inside the helmet, with his face shield down, he's back underway.
Boy, now he's got to negotiate this. There's number 50, Magnussen, who has picked up the lead. And remember now, Pirro has to negotiate that very long run all the way down the pits. That at something like 37 miles an hour to get back out. Of course, the question there is if he did get fuel inside his helmet, the fumes in there with that visor down would be very problematic. But now, Jan Magnussen finds himself in the lead. And one of our BMWs at an absolute stop on the backside of the track, and Magnussen just flashed by. Magnussen now out in front. And of course, tires. Magnussen's been on his tires a little bit longer, I think, than Pirro, but nonetheless, it should be fairly much. And there is number 10. And that is currently being driven by Nicholas Johnson, 5th in GT. That's the car that we saw Magnussen flash by, and there's no way, I don't think he's going to make it.
Well, in reality, he should be pulling this race car off the racetrack because this will definitely bring out full course yellow, a little bit blind back in this part of the racetrack. It sounds like it's running, it just sounds like it's lost drive.
Well, we'll see what develops here. By the way, we want to remind you as well, unfortunately, Gary Borchler and the Celine are done. They've had to call it a day. So the vet's looking well placed for GTS, and there's the spray, and Pirro reacting. Welcome back to the Road City, Portland, Oregon, with Mount Hood in the background. This is the 4th round of the American Le Mans Series, the Grand Prix of Portland. And it's been a very interesting and evolved race so far. We are under caution because of the stalled car, the number 10 Prototype Technology Group BMW of Nicholas Johnson. They have got the car essentially removed, so you can see the lights are out on the pace car, but a little bit more drama being thrown in here. Jan Magnussen, no way to communicate with the pits at this point, and they're other than with the board, as that board showed is going to be showing him the next time by. We anticipate going green. Now Magnussen does have a few lap cars between himself and his closest pursuer, Emmanuel Pirro. Trying to get the last bit of heat into the tires, trying to slow everything down, bunch of people up. Watch the pace car to duck in, and there Magnussen drops the hammer. Green flag is up, green flag is out.
I'll tell you what, if I look at Pirro, look at that. Well, if I'm Jan Magnussen, that is possibly the worst way to restart the event, because what you want to do is hang back, let the pace car go, and then get the run through the twisty bits, and that's going to hold up Magnussen.
Oh, that's Graf, I think, going around. Yep. Sorry. That was 3rd. One of the McKenna Porsches involved as well.
It's almost like a replay from about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
He's had some practice. Well, I'll tell you what.
Oh, that wasn't Porsche.
One of the Porsches is now buried in the pea gravel, so that will likely be another full course yellow.
I believe that's the number 69, the Wyman Foster entry, who's buried there. And if that is, now there are no lap cars between Magnussen and Pirro, and that's very interesting. Foster, the driver, and yeah, he's in there. That's definitely impact area territory. So they'll have to get him out. That Magnussen, as you said, got everybody up to speed. Would have been a lot tougher for Pirro to dive bomb everybody and jump right up onto his tail. Let's go back and take a look at what happened into the chicane at the restart. Watch for it. There's Rob.
Well, as usual, it's one of the Corvettes that hits. There's 2 separate accidents. The 51 gets hit by, well, I can't tell, but it's one of the Corvettes here that hits the Porsche. That's already happened. See, the Porsche there is parking its way into pea gravel. I think that was Johnny O'Connor. The guy that really made out with that is Andy Wallace. And I see the lights are on the pace car, so I think we're going to go yellow again. There's the pop there. That gets the Porsche. And then it's one of the number 22 Porsche that hits Klaus Graf.
I'm not even sure Graf got hit, actually. I think he may have some severe problems with rear brake lockup, because I don't know, Jeremy, he may have, I don't see him hit, he may have gone around by himself. We are full course caution, as you point out. So we get to rein everybody in and do it all over again. Graf apparently has spun again on the backside. We just missed it here. So he may well be struggling. Okay, we show it to you here. This is back in the chicane. Up by himself again.
Oh, and there is the 42 BMW. One of the Schnitzer BMWs, I think it was the 42 in that shot, spun as well. That would be Jörg Mueller. Frederick Ekblom in the number 43 Schnitzer BMW is leading GT. His teammate is Jörg Mueller in the number 42 car. There is the safety car. There is our leader, Jan Magnussen. I think it's now the questionable strategy on the restart is really not a factor for Jan Magnussen. But my point about that restart and Jan Magnussen was that he has the opportunity to drop his speed down, let the pace car roll away, which he didn't do. Now, this is the run down into turn 1. There's the Corvette hitting. I can't tell if that car got hit or not.
Yeah, it's tough because he wiggled while the Corvette was right behind him, but I don't know whether he got helped. He comes across. There he goes. He did it all by himself, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did do it all by himself. So the cars were all so close there.
Yeah, the number 22 is in. That's the McKenna entry. Randy Pope on the wheel. Oh, look at the damage to that tire, Calvin.
Well, you saw it there as they pushed it over the wall, Greg. Major damage to the left front wheel, caused a puncture. And actually, the gamble was taken by the 23 car just before that caution period. Lucas Luhr came in, fitted 4 Fred tires, and that could really be a factor. They've really got now, and they got fresh on that Porsche. He may be able to attack the BMWs.
Well, Calvin, I think that this car might have made contact with the 42 car down in the festival, because in one of those replays, I saw the 42 car backwards. So I think there's more to that whole situation than we know right now.
And as you point out, the number 23, the Porsche with the brand new tires, and this caution allows him to regroup with the pack. This could be an interesting battle in GT, let alone up front for the overall. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We'd like to remind you to join us here on Speed Vision for World Challenge coverage from Sonoma and Sears Point International Raceway, Friday, August 10th. The World Challenge Touring Car Championship at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The World Challenge GT Championship coming up at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Some of the best racing going is the Speed Vision World Challenge, and you can enjoy it right here in Speed Vision Friday night, August 10th, as we're watching a very interesting race unfold here at Portland, and a couple of BMWs development there. But first, let's check in with Calvin Fish with Tom Kristensen.
Caught up with Tom here. Tom didn't know how to bring the car in, major gearbox problem, but I understand you were having a similar difficulty earlier in the race.
Yeah, in the middle of the race, in my second run, I lost. I was very inconsistent, but then when I asked for a gear, it wouldn't change up, especially third to fourth, and I had to use the clutch a few times and go back to the normal system. So we were aware of it, but it got worse. We didn't know, and they had to bring it in because it was actually stuck completely in gear. But they were miracles. They fixed it. But as competitive it is right now, obviously we're not in the top anymore.
Okay, well, interestingly enough, Tom did get the fastest lap at the beginning of the race. That's worth a bonus point. Andrew Marriott in the BMW camp.
Yeah, I'm with your car. Didn't expect the car to come in right then, did we?
Yeah, JJ said there's something wrong on the rear end, but I think that's when Randy posted it. That wasn't a very fair move. You know, he hit me in the back after the restart in the chicane. He was sure she's but between us it was always fair. So.
The car's just left now, so you're not very happy about that at all?
Not at all, no. I mean, the car's a little bit bent now. It looks like JJ felt it, so yeah, we'll see what we can do now.
Going to have a word with him?
Definitely.
Not happy about your car.
Thanks, Andrew. It's interesting in the G right now. Boris said is the leader as we're about to come back to green, but everybody who's in pursuit of him right now really has a fresh set of tires. Now, Jeremy, here's what may have happened to 42.
Well, remember, we had this was the Klaus Graf, the second spin. And there was the hit right there between I couldn't see the number on which Porsche it was, but it was definitely the 42 BMW, and that's the hit that Mueller was talking about.
Now, Mueller may have felt it was undue, but on the other hand, that Porsche may have been thinking evasive action, trying to get around Graf, and moved over a little bit too much and clipped Mueller, so that's what we think may have happened. So right now, J.J. Layton has got to deal with what is apparently not the best handling car going out there. He has caught the back of the pack, but as I was saying, Boris said now leads in GT. Then you've got Lucas Luhr, Frederick Ekblom. They all are brand new tires as they all stopped during this long yellow that we just had. And so the pursuit here could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, you've got Lucas Luhr, Ekblom, and Leto all on fresh tires. We don't know how good Leto's car is. Now, here is Jan Magnussen, another opportunity for him on this restart. And again, if he waits until he gets to the front straightaway, it just becomes a drag race. And really, it's less of an advantage for him. Now, there he goes in the middle of the corner. That's how you can get a bit of an advantage. Wait until the middle of the corner. That's not what he did last time.
No, he didn't at all. Look at these guys bobbing and weaving back and forth.
Well, they're cleaning their tires off just to make sure they're good once they get down into the braking zone. I know that Jan Magnussen knows he's going to have a fight on his hands here with his Audi.
Now, this will be interesting, too, because Andy Wallace is in third, and, I mean, this is in position. He's not down the lap. That's on the same lap. We'll see what he's going to be able to do, and only a few seconds behind him is Bob Brown.
Inside 10 minutes to go, about 9 minutes to go here. I don't think Andy Wallace has got what it takes with this champion Audi to run with these guys right now. I think this is going to be a two-horse race in this last 10 minutes. I think the guy with the biggest load on his shoulders is Magnussen because he's got more mileage on those tires.
Keep in mind, Wallace on fairly used tires as well in that car. The champion tends to suffer from late in the stints and a little bit more push than the factory cars, and so it doesn't turn in well. So it's going to be interesting to watch that. We'll also try and see what's happening in the GT division. A lot of cars between Boris said, Lucas Luhr, Ekblom, and Leto. However, not a lot of time left, and that would be the issue. In terms of GTS, it's a mano-a-mano battle between the two vets. They may race each other like that. I think certainly Johnny O'Donnell, Sarko, and Collins, a second down. We're going to just get back here and listen a little bit as right here, Jan Magnussen tries to bring home. Here at Portland. Welcome back to Portland. We are in the last few minutes, just about 7 minutes or so remaining in the Grand Prix of Portland, and this is the battle for the lead. Magnussen listening in. This time he got on a little bit more aggressively and was able to preserve some of that launch out of the front straight. Jeremy, the story I was talking about, you mentioned in the open Audi the European Le Mans Championship, and you include as well the Le Mans itself. They have won 14 consecutive races. It was the Herbert race that decided last year. The PANOZ and anybody else for that matter has won a world-class sports car race. That streak is well and truly genuine.
And who would have thought it would have been these cars that were really done? I mean, the PANOZ team was finished with these cars. They've been fully committed to the LMP007 and its development. And they decided, okay, moving on. Well, ever since they pulled these cars out, they had a respectable run at CS Point. But everyone has been so surprised here in Portland with the competitiveness of these cars that are essentially 2 years old.
Well, the track's certainly conducive to that. It's just a remarkable story. Here's that battle in GT. Now, keeping in mind, Boris said is about 9 seconds clear right now of the number 23 McKenna Porsche, Lucas Luhr, just going out of frame. Right behind him now with J.J. Leto. Apparently that car that your Biela was concerned with, that damage is very okay. There's Boris said leading, but he is out over sheet right there, as you can see.
That's probably the pop from on the 42 car. That's probably the damage we saw in the 42 car, which caused them to make those 2 pit stops. The car seems to be running okay right now. I think the biggest thing here is that Boris said is running on clean racetrack.
On clean racetrack, and he only lost a little bit less than a second to the better tires of Lucas Luhr at this stage. Meanwhile, up front, look at how Pirro closes up midsection of the festival chicane. But look at the explosion off the corner that serves Magnussen so well.
Nothing like that being no turbos to get spooled up. None of that business. Just put your foot in it and off it goes. And there's no question. Here with Emanuele Pirro, but what a great fight he's He's
not a lot of experience though. This is 24th consecutive start in the series. It's a moment in series history. He's the only driver to compete in the races in the American Le Mans. 2 winners from almost 199 on the board in the rain at Herbert last year with Brabham. And you remember the racing was just incredibly dominant in Formula 3. Pretty sad now to go along with that just brutal speed of Jan Magnussen.
And this is where the PANOZ seems a little bit weaker, is that braking zone. But this is where it seems so strong coming off this corner. You can see the Audi struggling to get power to the ground. He's probably trying to go to the throttle earlier, but when those turbos spool up, that thing really just explodes, but it's not as controllable as the normally aspirated Biela.
Just a remarkable streak is in jeopardy here. The fact that it came, there's Brabham, and boy, you talk about a guy who's pretty wound up as well here, watching Magnussen. These older cars that really pulled out of storage. In fact, one of them had to come back from overseas. ALMS series for this to happen, and then the success, the podium at Sears Point a week ago, and then pole, and maybe even a better run here. Now some traffic going to play into it, and this might help Magnussen again with the V8 torque. If he can get by one of these cars and be able to work traffic a little bit more effectively, then Pirro, that might be it. Oh, he would have loved to have got him here, and he gets by. Pirro's going to knife by cleanly as well, though.
He had no choice there. He had to get that done. He had no choice. He got some help from the Viper, no question. Now, a couple of Porsches. This is not what you want to catch cars.
Oh, look at that. Porsches. Nice job as they watch the blue flags from the corner workers. Moved out of the way. Great corner working, and the information to the drivers virtually unimpeded to that couple of Porsches.
We've got about 1 minute to go, which means these drivers will see the white flag next time by. So 1 more lap to go. Next time by, start finish.
Coming up to that turn 7-8. This is so fast. The bounces the cars right when they get up on the curve there.
Man, look at all this traffic up ahead. There's one Porsche, and I think they're going to catch a whole bunch of cars on this last lap. It's that big GT battle, Greg.
Yeah, it sure is. There's the white flag. 1 to go. 1 to go. And Pirro not able to get it done. Oh, he gets as close as he's been, though. But not enough. And as you pointed out, they are quickly going to run in here. Talking about that streak of Audis, they have not lost in 14 races. They have not lost in about 15 months. It's just an unbelievable streak here.
Look at what Magnussen is doing. Magnussen is driving. This is a race. Those 3 cars are all racing for position. That's 2nd through 4th in GT.
It's all about getting a run out of this back straight. And there's the break. That's exactly what Magnussen needed. Oh, there it is. Right there. The BMW didn't catch sight. I don't think the Pirro held them up momentarily, or had maybe been no race journey.
I mean, certainly there was no guarantee that Pirro was going to have a shot at him, but that was the kind of break that Magnussen needed to give him just a little bit of breathing.
Tiptoeing to the last corner onto the front straight. The streak is gone, and PANOZ gets its 5th American Le Mans Series win. By the front straight, Jan Magnussen finishing the job that David Brabham leader in GTS, Johnny O'Connell. And he's not too far behind the 75. O'Connell had him covered. Then the car was for the Celine. And the hands of Conrad Borshort. It's made it a bit easier on these guys. And there's your 675 category winner. 57 of Milcaduno, John Graham and Didier de Radiguez. Very trouble-free run for them. To the front straight we go. There is O'Connell. He picks up the win. And they weren't even going to come here originally, the Corvette team. And there's the 6th, Boris 7. And Hans Stuck taking the win for Tom Milner's Prototype Technology team. Just an unbelievable developments throughout the field. But the biggest unquestionably, Andrew, is with the PANOZ.
Unbelievable, really is. I mean, you know, when you come here, we've been in competitive shape, but we were probably more competitive than I thought we were, particularly in the race. I mean, these guys deserve it. They really do. I mean, it's just a fantastic result for the team. Fantastic for Michelin, Sensomatic, everyone. I mean, it's fantastic.
Those last couple of laps, you were on tenterhooks.
I haven't felt this nervous for some time, but I tell you what, I mean, right at the end there when he popped up and Piro was just nearly about to grab him, he shouldn't do that to us, he really shouldn't.
Well done, enjoy it.
Thanks you, thanks.
Jan Magnussen takes the lap of honor, but this has truly been very much a team win with Brabham and everybody at the Elan Motorsports Eclipse. What a story. We'll be back. You think this win meant something to this team? Look at Jan Magnussen celebrating big time, absolutely lighting it up here, and even scorched one as he came into victory lane here in celebration. And boy, he is loving this moment, and he is down with Calvin down in victory circle. Cal.
Well, he's down there in victory lane. Big hug from one of his ex-teammates, Johnny O'Connell. We're going to get a word in here. Kisses all the way around. I'm not going to kiss him, but Jan Magnussen, what a performance out there this afternoon. You and David, great run.
Thank you. Well, as you said, you know, David started off and did an unbelievable job. So when I got the car, we were in the lead on me.
Great. How are you doing?
So when I got in the car, I went on the used tires from David, and it was very slippery, but no problem. The yellow came at a good time because I was trying to save fuel, and you know, I couldn't really do what I wanted.
What about the pressure from Piro at the end and the car, old tires? Had to be nervous with the traffic.
It was a bit twitchy, and then all the traffic came on the last lap, and I thought, man, this is it. So I tried to hold him back a little bit and then go for my shot, but it worked really well.
Great run, Jan. We love to see it.
Thank you.
Andrew.
I've got to back you with me. Well, you tried so hard, you just can't win one of these 2 out of 45 pit racing.
You bet. We really tried hard. The weekend looked good on Friday. Saturday we had a lot of problems and we basically threw everything away. Today the car was not so good. I mean, it was okay, but there was a lot of oversteer, and Frank already warned me. So he pitted and he gave me new tires, and I went out for a double stint on the same set of rubber. And I really, really tried. I mean, I'm happy for the PANOZ guys, but I gave them a big, big push. It was slippery like hell. I'm happy for the second place, but obviously when there was a restart, you know, last 10 minutes sprint race, I was really hoping.
And then on the last lap, you almost got by.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, you know. You try, but he was there to win, and for him, especially, it was either winning or nothing because they're not really fighting for the championship. And we had a part of bodywork broken, which produced a lot of oversteer, and it was difficult. It's good, you know, races are like this. I tried, for a fraction one, and that's the way it is.
Thanks very much, Emanuele.
Boy, he alluded to the comments from Frank Biela with this great crowd on hand here at Portland. If that opening stint where Biela lost some 40 seconds with problems, if that had gone a little bit better, who knows how this might have turned out. Jeremy, there's our top 10 at this point, obviously, in the overall. And we didn't get the GT in front of GTS, but nonetheless, stuck it well into the top 9 at the top 10.
Well, no question about it. You can see them right behind the 2 class-winning GTS Corvettes of O'Connell and Pilgrim, number 3 and 4 there, 7th and 8th. So the GT cars were close. Great run by Boris said, and and shook. They really weren't in the thick of it all day. They decided at that last yellow to stay out on their tires. Everyone else stopped and changed tires, and that was really the difference for them.
Well, Stuckett backed off a little bit early, and that apparently he had a plan and it was working. And of course, great run by Graham Milcaduno and Didier de Radiguez down there as well. But let's go back down to victory circle. Calvin Fish is caught up with our GTS winner.
Well, big smiles in the Corvette camp, and Johnny O, the magical season continues, mate.
I tell you, it has been great. Everyone at Pratt Miller, what a race car. This Corvette is unbelievable. But, you know, really this time of event is a team deal, Calvin. I mean, they made a good call on us to pit on that first yellow, and that gave us a big lead when the Celine finally can't come in. So even if they didn't have a problem, I think we had them covered. But you know, it was just a great fight. I mean, I got my good buddy Kelly here, and you know, Kelly drove awesome. And you know, I was getting his lap times, he was getting my lap time, so we were pushing each other back and forth. It was great fun. The Goodyear tires did great, and boy, everyone at GM, man, what a great year, huh?
I bet your buddies at PANOZ had to be nice to see Magnussen pull one off today.
You know what? I'm still good friends with Jan and David and all the guys here, so I'm happy to see them. They ran a great race. They pushed hard. But, you know, I'm all about GM and Corvette now, and I couldn't be happier. This is the best team I've ever been on, and, you know, my boss is standing right behind the camera, so hopefully I'll be here a long time.
Well done, Johnny.
Thanks, Andy.
He keeps working it that way. He should be around. And keep in mind, with that win, it's the 4th win for Ron Fellows, 3rd for Johnny O'Connell, and we're just talking in the GTS division. So Johnny O'Connell, a lot of success in the American Le Mans Series. We'll be back with more from Portland in just a sec.
Speed Vision's coverage of the American Le Mans Series has been brought to you by Toyota. More choices, better selection. Experience Toyota today.
Welcome back to Winner's Circle. Big Boris, huge hands and a great win. Hans, you're over the moon with that.
Oh yes, I'm so happy, you know. I mean, now we're in the hunt for the championship, and we're very pleased to beat the Schnitzer team. This was our target this time. And thanks to a great team, thanks to Yokohama and Boris, we have been not only the fast, but the smartest guy that will make us win the race today.
Yeah, right at the end, you didn't take fresh tires on the yellow. That was obviously calculated.
No, I mean, today it was a tire war. You know, Porsche, BMW had Michelin's, we had Yokohama's, and you know, our tires were as good on the last lap as the first lap. So, you know, Yokohama gave us a great tire day. They've been working real hard on their car, and the team did a great pit stop, and, you know, we have the best car out there, BMW M3. So it's the ultimate driving machine. Honda did a great job, and, you know, I'm tickled to death to be in Mercer.
Two happy men are going to be celebrating. They're needed up on victory circle there. Back to you guys.
Yeah, Andrew, I think the dinner rolls will be flying tonight during dinner. There's no question of that. Let's take a look at our full field results here. We showed you the top 10 earlier, but we get a little bit deeper down in the packet. One of the things that they talk about, Hans Stuck saying they were the smartest drivers. I mean, he laid back early. He didn't push too hard. He conserved fuel, and I think that really made a difference.
Well, he didn't get involved in that big thrash that was going on amongst those GT cars. And I think that was probably the right thing to do. Remember, his team car, the 10 car, got damaged. I mean, pretty much all of those cars made contact at one point or another during the day, and I think it was good strategy. But I think more importantly, they decided not to stop at the end, and that was really the difference for those guys.
And the celebrations continue, of course. Brabham on the left there, Magnussen on the right, and they are partying hard up there already. One of the stories, too, in GTS with the Celine dropping out, obviously that certainly helped the Corvette camp, but Celine didn't get, they did win in Trois Rivières, Quebec, but obviously they didn't get their 3 wins in 3 different countries. But nonetheless, we witnessed an absolutely amazing race here in Portland. That streak we've made so much about is now gone. Pressure's off, I guess, in that regard. We ask you to always, of course, tune in on the internet, check in for information on racing on speedvision.com. A great group of writers keep you well appraised of all the information happening on the internet. Thank you so much for joining us here at Portland, where it has been an absolutely awesome race. For Jeremy Dale and for Calvin Fish and for Andrew Marriott, I am Greg Kramer. Thanks again for joining us here in the Road City. We'll see you next time on Speed Vision. Take care, everybody.